Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday morning, December 20th. Well, the Arctic air mass that we've been tracking for the past several days has reached the northern U.S. It'll drive all the way down to the south to Texas by later in the work week and then spread to the east to the eastern seaboard, probably with the frontal passes, the powerful Arctic frontal passes along the I-95 corridor region sometime Friday afternoon or so. There'll be quite a rainstorm ahead of it from Thursday into Friday in the eastern part of the nation. That could begin as a period of a wintry mix in some of the suburbs along I-95, but it'll end up as a most likely a soaking rain event, maybe even a thunderstorm or so, and then that Arctic frontal system again reaches the eastern states on Friday afternoon, and anywhere and everywhere across the country where this surface Arctic frontal system passes through, you'll know about it. It'll be a dramatic change in blizzard conditions associated with this Arctic frontal system, and anywhere from the Central Plains all the way into the Appalachian Mountains later in the week, and then up into the northeastern part of the nation by late in the day on Friday. Let's start off with the 0Z ensemble run of the GFS, just looking at 850 millibar temperature anomalies, and here is that blob of very cold air. When you see light purple like this, you're looking on this scale here, you're talking 20 to 30 degrees below normal, and for the latter part of December, that indeed is some impressive cold. Again, this air mass originated on the other side of the North Pole over Siberia days and days ago. Then, because of a cross-polar flow that developed aloft over the polar region, it allowed for the transportation of this Siberian air mass onto the North American side of the North Pole through Western Canada, and now it has invaded the northern U.S. And again, it'll take a drop to the south and east over the next few days, and we'll see that in a moment, right to Texas, and then it'll spread to the east and reaching the eastern seaboard by later Friday, going into Friday night. Let's push forward here and watch the core of this cold air mass right in this region right here drives to the south and east, plunging all the way down to Texas. This is now the Thursday evening forecast map. There'll be a very powerful surface front right in this region at that time with the bitter cold air to the west. And look at this anomalous warm air to the east that forms well ahead of the surface front. Low pressure area will take an inland track, and south to southeast winds that'll be very strong on Thursday night along the eastern seaboard will pump this mild air all the way up into the southeastern part of Canada. That warm up will likely peak on Friday morning, places like DC, Philadelphia, New York City, with temperatures in the 50s. But then watch out. Things will change abruptly in the afternoon with a plunge in temperatures as that Arctic surface front finally reaches the eastern seaboard. Again, this is Thursday evening, a forecast map of 850 millibar temperature anomalies. Don't be surprised if there are numerous low temperature records over the next few days, all the way from the Canadian border down to the Mexican border, especially in the central part of the U.S. Let's move forward here. Then this air mass will start to expand to the east, again reaching the I-95 corridor region with a very powerful surface front early to mid-afternoon, it looks like, on Friday. And certainly stay tuned over the next couple of days. That frontal passage, the timing is very important, and we'll continue to fine-tune it over the next couple of days. Right now, for DC, Philadelphia, New York City, it looks like early to mid-afternoon on Friday. With that frontal passage, there will be a sharp drop in temperatures, 25 to 30 degrees in just a couple of hours, and that could produce a flash freeze. By that I mean any existing wetness on the roadways could quickly freeze up, and there'll be a lot of rain Thursday night into Friday morning, so certainly can have a quick icy scenario immediately following the passage of that frontal system. Let's move forward here. The core of that cold air reaches the mid-Atlantic region, the eastern part of the nation, by Saturday, Christmas Eve. One of the coldest Christmas Eves and Christmas days that we've had in the eastern half of the nation in many, many years. Again, the core of that cold air first drives down to the south, all the way through the Central Plains into the Southern Plains, Texas, for example, by later on Thursday. Then it spreads to the east, reaching the Mid-Atlantic region certainly by later Friday, and by Saturday morning we'll be in the deep freeze in the Mid-Atlantic region, and that sticks around right into Sunday morning. This is Sunday morning. It's Christmas morning, of course, and don't be surprised to see single digits in some of the suburban areas along I-95, both Saturday morning and Sunday morning. Will it warm up behind this? Absolutely. This happens to be the coldest air in all of North America by this time in the eastern part of the nation. It's inevitable that we have a thaw after this, and I'll just keep moving forward quickly. Here we are into next Monday. This is a week from yesterday. Still very cold in the eastern part of the nation, and it sticks around into Tuesday. We're talking a week away from right now, but then notice out in the western half of the nation, much above normal temperatures starting to show up again on the weather maps. The western half of the nation a week from right now. That spreads to the east, and by later next week, going into the following weekend, maybe the first week of January, quite the thaw. Late December, early January thaw for the eastern half of the nation, and that follows, of course, this very, very cold weather this week going into and right through the upcoming weekend. Well, let's now go through the surface forecast maps. We're using the operational run of the GFS from 0Z last night. Cold start to the day here in the Mid-Atlantic region. High pressure in control. You can see the isobars right here. This is surrounding this very, very strong high pressure system. A cold Canadian high pressure area centered this morning, Tuesday morning, over the southwestern part of Canada. And the Arctic air is now making a move to the south and east from the Dakotas, Montana, all the way, eventually making it down to Texas by later in the day on Thursday. Now, let's push forward here. First of all, in the short term, we have a very impressive low pressure area that pulls out of the Gulf and soaks Florida over the next 24 to 48 hours or so. It stays dry over the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, central part of the nation. But then we start to get the influence of that Arctic plunge, and here we go. By the time we get to Thursday morning, this is when the action really begins for much of the eastern half of the nation. Really two features to point out. Low pressure will develop along the eastern seaboard, take an inland track, and it will result in strong south to southeast winds. A much milder air mass will flow from the south-southeast to the north and northwest. This area will expand into a soaking rain event for the Mid-Atlantic region from Thursday into Thursday night, even into Friday morning. Could be cold enough right at the onset, early Thursday, for a brief period of a wintry mix, snow and or sleet. Suburbs of D.C., suburbs to the north and west of Philly, for example. Out here in the middle of the nation, as the Arctic air plunges to the south, we'll have accumulating snow, and this frontal passage right here, by the time we get to Thursday evening, you'll see this surface frontal system right here over the Tennessee Valley all the way down into the lower Mississippi Valley, accumulating snow associated with the passage of that Arctic frontal system. Meanwhile, in the east, a lot of rain Thursday night into Friday morning. Maybe a few thunderstorms will break out, especially over places like the Delmarva Peninsula on Thursday night, and there'll be increasingly strong winds, very strong winds, in fact, Thursday through the day on Friday in the eastern part of the nation. I would say the eastern third of the nation. Could even be some damaging wind gusts ahead of the frontal system and immediately behind the frontal system, which again arrives along the I-95 corridor region Friday early to mid-afternoon. We have milder air pushing all the way into southeastern Canada. Let's move forward here. Meanwhile, out in the Midwest, late Thursday night going into Friday morning. This is the Friday morning forecast map. Look at these isobars. The tighter the isobars, the stronger the winds. This is some of the tightest pressure gradient I've seen in a long, long time. This will no doubt be blizzard conditions across the Great Lakes into the Midwest for maybe 6 to 12 hours or so as this Arctic surface front passes from west to east. And with these tight isobars here. You can expect 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, damaging wind gusts. No doubt travel will be extremely difficult in this area. Again, this is Friday morning across the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley. Absolute blizzard conditions here with snow showers, snow squalls, 50, 60, maybe even 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts right here. Then we move forward a little bit. That Arctic front reaches the I-95 corridor region probably early to mid-afternoon hours. We're talking, let's say, 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Friday afternoon, December 23rd, in that D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City corridor. And you will know that when the front passes through, this will be a dramatic frontal passage, really all the way from the plains to the Midwest, Ohio Valley, into the Mid-Atlantic and northeastern part of the nation. Look at this isobar pattern here throughout the Great Lakes, northeast U.S., Mid-Atlantic region. This is just incredible winds here, damaging wind gusts. Don't have any inflatable decorations outside on Thursday or Friday in this part of the nation. 50, 60, maybe even 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts here. Heavy rain pushes all the way up into New England. Once that front passes, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, expect a plunge in temperatures, maybe 25 or 30 degrees in just a couple of hours. That allows the possibility of what we call a flash freeze, basically a quick freeze up. Any wet roadways can freeze up quickly with temperatures dropping perhaps from the 50s early in the day on Friday into the 20s by later in the afternoon. There certainly can be a burst of snow as well, producing small accumulations, not out of the question in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Even in those urban areas, a quick burst of snow can produce a small accumulation, and that too, in addition to the possible flash freeze, could result in some quickly deteriorating roadway conditions Friday afternoon into Friday evening. And watch out for damaging wind gusts as well. Let's go out a little bit farther in time. This is 7 p.m. on Friday evening. Blizzard conditions across New York State, even into parts of New England with the passage of that Arctic surface front. Snow, even into the I-95 corridor region, is a possibility. Not a snowstorm, but certainly a quick coating can take place here late Friday into Friday night. And look at this screaming north to northwest winds still existing over a place like Detroit, back to Chicago. Blizzard conditions in that area Friday into Friday night. Just extreme winds here. 964 millibar low. Let's move ahead now into Friday night and Saturday morning. By this time, could have single digits in some of those suburban areas to the north and west of the big cities along the I-95 corridor region. Still very strong winds. Any neighborhood that follows the tradition of lighting luminaries typically on Christmas Eve, which would be Saturday evening, could have difficulty just keeping the flames lit, because strong winds will continue through the day and through the night on Saturday. Very, very cold conditions as well. Again, single digits on the table, suburban locations, both Saturday morning and again Sunday morning, which of course is Christmas morning. Here we get all the way out to Sunday morning. A very, very cold Christmas day for much of the eastern half of the nation. Some of the coldest weather we've seen in many, many years for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day in the eastern half of the nation. And then later next week, expect a significant warm-up to begin. And it looks like late next week into the following week, which will be the first week in the month of January, a thaw takes place in the same part of the country, the eastern half of the nation, that will experience this very, very cold Arctic air over the next several days. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Doria.